Alright, let us talk about episode 15 of Outlander season 7. This was a very, very big episode, as you all may know, especially if you read the books. There was a big event that happened in this episode where a very intense situation occurred. A certain character's life is hanging in the balance as we speak. Let us get into episode 15, titled Written in My Own Heart's Blood. Now, if you've read the books, you will know that the title of this episode is actually the title of, I believe, Book 8. Yes, it should be Book 8. And the reason why the title is what it is because there's a more symbolic meaning to it, which we will discuss at the end of this video. But may I say that out of all the episodes of the season, I'd say it's probably my second favorite, because The Happiest Place on Earth is my number one. But this episode just had so many emotions, which another reason why Happiest Place on Earth was my number one, because of the emotions that it made me feel. But this one really made you feel, let's just say. I actually ugly cried during this episode twice, which they don't usually get that from me. Now, I admit that I did cry earlier this season, or this half of the season, when Ian Sr. was seeing off young Ian and Claire as they were leaving Lallybroch. I did cry then. Haven't cried since, but this episode, it broke me. It broke me. Because here's the thing. We obviously had a situation earlier in the season where we had a fake out death with Jamie. Claire was going through it again, because how many times has this man almost died? But here's the thing, that didn't make me cry, because I knew he wasn't dead, and I knew, because we didn't see anything happen to him. Literally just all we did was hear what happened to him. So, not as effective. But the fact that Claire goes through it earlier in the season, and now the tables have turned. So yes, Claire is the one whose life is hanging in the balance, and it was not in the way that I thought it was going to be when I originally read the description of what happened in Book 8. And here's the thing, whenever you read a description of a book, or just a simple summary of what happens, it does not compare to the brilliant acting that you see on the screen. Because Sam Heughan and Katrina Balfe, they brought Jamie and Claire back in this episode. And I will get into how and why. So I'm going to begin with a discussion of the episode and what happened leading up to the major event for Claire. So this episode actually has a very interesting intro. We actually see a recap of all of the battles that have been fought, all of the lives that have been lost between Jamie and Claire, and it is just such an emotional opening. What makes it so emotional is that Claire is actually narrating during this montage, and big quote of this moment, which I wrote it down because I was not going to remember it, especially when she brings up Murtaugh, which, as you know, how he died. She says, as Murtaugh once said, there's always a war coming. War is inevitable, and death is too. And just, honestly, it hit because of just everything that's going on in the world right now. That really struck a chord with me. And it is kind of like an ugly truth. And especially in the world of Outlander, it is the ugliest of truths in this story. They are constantly finding themselves in a war, in a battle, a fight against a character. Like, there's just always a conflict. Just the way that they painted this, like, I think it was brilliantly done. It opens up the episode really well, and it kind of gives a foreshadowing into what is to come. Now, I knew something was going to happen to Claire in this episode, especially the way they were setting it up. So while she and Jamie are in the tent at the camp, he is having trouble sleeping, so Claire tries to comfort him, and he explains to her, like, how he originally saw, after his mother had died, it was the first time he saw a dead body, and how he saw his little brother wrapped up in his mother's arms, and there was just kind of this sense of peace with them. And then he mentions how she was, I forgot, oh yeah, she didn't have a white or gray hair on her. And then Claire mentions that she was 38 and how she has seen so many years, like, thankfully. And, like, right when they start talking about that, I start to think, yeah, this is the episode. This is when it's definitely going to happen. If the title alone didn't give it away. But here's the thing. Claire is sensing something is going to happen. Like, we see flashbacks of her talking to Jamie throughout the episode, saying, like, something feels off. Something just doesn't feel right. And normally it could mean, like, death is coming. But in terms of thinking about this, she's thinking it could be Jamie. She is feeling something is off, and it feels different. Now, why does it feel different, one might ask? Especially if she has gone through the situation again, how many times? So, what Claire doesn't realize is that she is sensing something not for Jamie, but for herself. She knows something is coming, that something bad is going to happen. Now, the way it happens is definitely not the way one would expect. So, while Jamie is off fighting with his men, we see the battle in the background. We hardly see any fighting happening, like, in first-person view, but Claire is at a church where they're having, like, a hospital for the injured soldiers, and as usual, there's a surgeon who undermines her. Even Denzel. He undermines Denzel, and it's like, sir, you basically don't like anybody who questions your methods. That's the truth. So yeah, Claire is getting nowhere with this man, so she's like, you know what, forget it. I'll be outside, I'll be tending to patients there, and it is what it is. So while Claire is outside, she has another flashback, and she, interestingly, isn't thinking about death with this conversation she's having with Jamie. She's more thinking about, like, what comes after, and it just gets very philosophical, like, everything that we do could be for nothing. And that is a scary thought, to think that you're here, you're supposed to make a difference, especially with her time-traveling abilities. And it's just a scary thought that everything that she has done and put effort into will make no difference. But we all know she has made a difference. But it's just this weight that she's feeling. It's this sense that something is going to happen, per se. And again, she doesn't realize it's for her. She thinks it's for Jamie. So that's more where her concern is lying. She also coincidentally talks to Rachel, who is also having her own fears. She worries that if Ian hesitates to kill anybody because he's worried about how Rachel would respond to it. Like, she's afraid that that's going to get him killed, and it's going to be because of her, and she'll only be left with her principles. And Claire is kind of feeling like a similar feeling, just more so that Jamie's going to do something or feel like he has to do something, and that's what's going to get him killed. So it's interesting that there's kind of like an opposite thing, but at the same time it's causing them to feel a similar feeling. And of course, in Claire fashion, a soldier arrives and she realizes he is having some issue in his chest where there's air in there that is not getting out. So she actually brings him inside to the church. And again, the surgeon, I'm not even going to give him a name. He doesn't deserve it. And you'll understand why at the end. But she basically ignores him, and she gets the man on the table. She does her procedure, and she gets the air out. And he actually stares in amazement. And he allows her to continue on, even though he's still like, I still don't like that you don't listen to me. And I just love how Claire is constantly telling him that you are wrong. It's like, wouldn't we love to do that? But yes. So she's able to prove herself in this moment. And later on, eventually there's word that the British are coming and that they have to evacuate the hospital area, what do you call it, the field? I can't think of the name. They have to evacuate the area because the redcoats are coming. Claire wants to stay with the men who are not able to move. She wants to continue to treat them. And the surgeon goes out telling her, like, you just have to leave them. We have to go. And she tells him, like, no, I'm not leaving them. And he says, well, at least come inside the church and, like, bunker down and hide. And she's like, no, I am staying with the men. So, amazingly, this actually is met with a smidge of respect from the surgeon. He actually tells her she's a bloody good surgeon. And he even calls her Dr. Fraser. What? Now here's the thing. This is the last moment for this guy where I actually have even a smidge of respect for him. It was a nice moment. Unfortunately, it does not last. And I will tell you why. Jamie gets word that the redcoats are heading towards the church where everybody is. So he and his men run out there. And meanwhile, I believe his name is Brigsby, one of the soldiers, approaches the camp and he tells Claire, like, what's going on with the battle. And he says that they're actually winning. So we thought the British were heading over there because the Americans had lost. But no, they're actually just retreating. So it's good news. However, as Jamie and his men arrive, they see the redcoats and he tells them, no, they're retreating, leave them. However, a bit of heckling starts and the British and Americans start to have a little bit of tension between them. And Jamie spots Claire and Claire spots Jamie. It's going to be a happy moment. All of a sudden, as tensions ramp up, gunfire is shot and Claire is caught in the crossfire. Now here's the thing. I don't remember where they said she gets shot in the book. I originally thought she got shot in the arm. I could be wrong about that. It might have just been my imagination being all like, oh, she doesn't have a near-death experience. But no, she does not get shot in the arm. As soon as we see her face after the gunfire, we pan down and we see she has been shot in the lower abdomen. Basically, she mentions later where the liver is. A very, very bad place to get shot. I'm sorry, I'm getting chills right now. Talking about this moment might get to me a little bit. But yeah, Jamie, of course, sees this happen and he rushes over to her and she is in pain and she is in shock. And he manages to carry her into the church and he tells the surgeon, like, to do something. And he looks at her and he sees how she's bleeding. He realizes that the musket ball is stuck wherever inside of her body. And he tells them to just apply the pressure to the wound. But he tells them that there is nothing more he can do. And again, any amount of respect I had for the surgeon, bye-bye. He gives up so fast. Like, he barely gives it a chance. And yeah, he's like, hey, sorry, good luck to you. It's like, what kind of a doctor are you? Just leaving your patient like that? Like, dude. Yeah, that guy. And even Jamie, like, curses him out and he calls him, like, a whore. Which Claire, amazingly, in her shock, she kind of finds it interesting that he called him that. But yeah, it gets sad from there on, because there's really not much they can do. And a soldier comes in and he tells Jamie that General Lee wants to talk to him. And it's like, this is not the time, dude. And Jamie is so upset at the situation. Jamie takes some of Claire's blood and he writes a message on the man's back saying that he resigns. Hence the title, Written in My Own Heart's Blood. Claire is his heart. And it's just such an intense moment because you can't just easily resign from these things. Like, you're basically considered a deserter if you, like, run off. So even just saying that you resign and telling somebody that you're not going to do this anymore, that's taking a chance. But at this point, he does not care. He is in pain. He is losing his wife, and no one can do anything for her. So the next thing he tells Brigsby to do is to go find Denzel. He and Rachel had gotten away when they thought the British were going to attack, but Brigsby manages to go and find them. But right before they enter the church, Jamie is just praying over Claire, and he tells God, like, if the angels are coming for her, I will not let them take her. And yeah, this is gonna be hard to talk about. Just this moment is so touching because he just loves her so much. And one of the things that he said to Claire in the flashback when they were having a conversation was, like, the stars will not burn out and neither will we. And he tells her that later as well. And it's just the love that this man has for her just is beautiful. And to make comparisons, which I unfortunately do, it just kind of reminded me of my grandparents. Just because my grandmother died first, and I know my grandfather was there with her. So it just kind of makes me think like that was what the feeling was there. But yeah, sorry, I don't mean to make it sad, just the way that Sam and Katrina did this scene was so brilliant and perfect. It captured the emotions, it captured what true love really is. And don't we wish we could see more of that? I guess on that note, sorry, Denzel is actually going to perform the procedure to get the musket ball out of her, because here's foreshadowing for you. He learned how to do it from when Claire was getting it out of Henry earlier in the season, or half of the season. So he knows what to do. And one of the best little moments of breaking the tension here was Rachel also produced a basket of cheese that Lafayette had sent when he heard that Claire got hurt. And just the way she says, it's the smelliest cheese. It was just the kind of a moment you needed in there, you know? But just the fact that Lafayette is just, he's a cinnamon roll whether he realizes it or not. Now, I don't know if that's how he was in real life, but in the show, he is a cinnamon roll. And we end on a cliffhanger with Denzel about to perform the procedure and Jamie asking Claire not to leave him. So yes, that was a very intense episode, and you can see probably why I ugly cried a couple times here. And if you didn't, good for you. But I could not hold it back. The scene, again, was just done so brilliantly by Sam and Katrina. Like, whenever they are asked to do an emotional scene like this, they bring it. They just always bring it. Well done, Sam and Katrina. You did this episode justice, and I didn't know how this moment in the book was going to come to life, and did it. Also, if I said Brigsby, I probably meant Bigsby. I can't get the names right. It's hard when they're just in the episode for like a couple times, you know? I'm trying, I promise. Also, for historical context, the battle that they are fighting in this episode is the Battle of Monmouth. Monmouth? I hope I said that right. Why is it always a name I can't pronounce? Anyway, it is a battle that happened in 1778. So just for timeline purposes, I am just mentioning that. And now that we have gotten the sad stuff out of the way from this episode, let us talk about a couple of other subplots that occurred. Now, Lord John has gone with Ian to go rescue William. We did not see the capturing of William, we just saw that it was going to happen. So some stuff has happened in between, obviously. So when they approached the camp, they approached the Hessian captain there, and they are trying to pretend like they are with the British Army and that they have orders to take the British captain. And the Hessian soldier brings out William, who is gagged and tied up, and he mentions that he is not going to give him up because he killed 2 of his men. He knows that Richardson did not send them, so he basically orders his men to kill William, and in that second, like literally in like 5 seconds, all the Hessians are dead except for the captain, because Lord John and Ian just brought it, and they are able to rescue William in this moment. Ian does one thing where he is merciful and lets the captain go, however, in stupid fashion, as they always do, the captain is like, "Oh, no, you're going to live to regret that." And then he runs off, and Ian has this look of concern on his face, and he's like, "Oh, great, it's Bug all over again." Lord John thanks Ian, and William even manages to thank him like a normal person, or should I say a decent person. And we don't really see much of Ian in this episode, but he has this one really cool moment. So as the Hessian captain is getting away, all of a sudden somebody attacks him, and guess who it is? It's Ian. He's like, "You know what? Yeah, I would have lived to regret that, so bye." Yes, he kills him. So he's not crazy about having to kill him, but he has somebody to protect now. He does not want any harm coming to Rachel, especially after what happened to Mr. Bug. And he's learned a lesson in this season. And it was a really interesting moment. It came full circle, so I thought that was well written there. As for Lord John and William, they make it back to the British camp, and they basically have it out with each other. And Lord John tries to tell William, like, he is very much like Jamie, and William basically finds this an insult because Jamie was a groom, and he can't get over that. So Lord John tells him, like, he is the most courageous, amazing person that he has ever known, and William's basically lucky to have been sired by him. And it's just interesting to hear Lord John talk so highly of Jamie after everything that went down between them. So it's very clear that he, maybe not 100% things have been resolved between them, but he has forgiven him, and he understands why he got mad at him, why he beat him up. I don't condone that, but this was the times. But yes, just the way that Lord John speaks so highly of Jamie was just beautiful in this moment. But William still cannot see eye to eye. He knows deep down that he's not a Grey, and he's having trouble even accepting Lord John as his father now, even though Lord John says that he is his son, even if he didn't sire him. But yeah, there's still some stuff to be resolved there. It looks like there might be a reason for some father to son moments in the next episode, because yeah, Frances comes running up to William, and she is angry. She wants to know where he has been, because while he was gone, Jane was recognized by a major who came by the camp, unfortunately recognized her from the brothel, and he knew that she had killed Harkness. That's what it is. So they arrested her on the spot, and she was taken away, and Frances is freaked out, and William promises her that he is going to find her. And we leave it there, and we will see in the next episode where that all goes. Unfortunately, if they go by the books, I'm not going to spoil it, but let's just say that story will most likely not have a happy ending, which I am not looking forward to. Now for Roger and Buck, basically a conversation occurs where Buck wants to know who his mother and father are, and Roger finally tells him, like, hey, your mother's Galis Duncan, and that man that walked into the room when we were there, yeah, that's your dad. So Buck is very angry. He's very upset with Roger for not telling him, because he would have liked to have known, since he never got to know his parents. And he felt like a fool, like being around them and not realizing who they were. So he almost threatens to go off and find them and tell them, but Roger's trying to stop him, like, no, this can't be good. I didn't want to tell you this for this very reason. It might mess with what happens in the future. But he tells him, like, you basically threatened your future when you went to go save your dad. And honestly, he makes a good point with that. And he also mentions, like, if we hadn't gone to Galis Duncan, Dougal Mackenzie wouldn't have come looking for us, and they wouldn't have met. So that actually confirms something, that they did meet in that moment. But yeah, he makes all these really good points. So Roger, he can't really argue with it. However, he still wants to convince Buck, like, can we not go this route? And he asks him if there is one more thing that they can do while they're there. So they actually return to Lallybroch, and they meet up with Brian Fraser again, and they basically just want to write notes there. So Roger writes a note to Bree, and he knows that that desk will be in the future. He doesn't know if the contents will still be in there, but while he's writing the letter, Buck also writes something to Galis, and he wants to basically thank her for helping cure the ailment that he had earlier in the second half of the season. And he kind of accepts that he's not going to meet his parents, which that's kind of the conclusion he unfortunately has to come to. He also mentions to Roger that he's really not a good person, even though Roger thinks he is. But he tells him, like, how he met his wife, and he basically stole her from another man, and they were forced to get married, and he just feels like he kind of ruined her life and their lives. So he almost doesn't feel bad if he doesn't return there, because he thinks his wife will find a better person, or the person that she had loved before. And he actually offers to go back to Bree and tell her what has happened, because Roger plans to stay in the past to find their son, because he still doesn't know what's happened. And Roger tells him, like, he doesn't have to do that, but Buck is insistent, like, I want to do this. So we leave that there. But I don't know if Buck's going to have a chance to go back, because Bree is in the study where the desk is, in the present. In the 80s, let's just say. And she happens, while she's looking at a book written by her father, Frank Randall. I don't know if the book's going to come into play later on, possibly. I feel like it was in the books, but I'm not sure. Anyway, she does happen to find the letter, and she realizes, oh, Roger ended up further back. Things did not go well. Okay. So now she knows where to go. So she has written a note to Roger just in case he had returned. Like, hey, we went to go looking for you. So she and the kids end up at Craignadoon. And she is telling the kids, like, hold on to the gemstone and think of Dad. And Mandy, being a time-traveling newbie here, first-timer, she immediately runs to the stone without Bree and Jemmy, and Bree and Jemmy have to go run after her, so we don't see what happens to them, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna end up right where Roger is, because we only have one episode left of the season anyway. I don't know what's gonna happen with the subplot with Rob Cameron and whatever operation is going on there. There was more to it in the books I read, but I don't know if they're gonna show that more in the show. I feel like they should, just so we have an idea what was going on with that, because clearly it was more than just the gold. Something else was going on. But I don't know. We'll have to see if that wraps up or not. But as far as this episode went, I thought it was great. It was a good penultimate episode for season 7, and I know Claire's gonna survive. They have one more season. They're not doing it without her. But even when you know a character is gonna survive, it's still very emotional to see them going through something horrible. And also just to see the way Jamie responded to it. It's just so heartbreaking because he doesn't know if she's going to survive or not, and that's terrifying. And it's interesting because there are moments between them where they each go through potentially losing one another. For Jamie to experience almost losing Claire after she experienced almost losing him this season, it's a lot. It's a lot. Yes, it was beautifully acted, and I am curious to see how everything resolves in the finale. Can you believe we are at the finale next week? How'd that happen? I don't even know. But yes, tell me what you all thought of this episode. Did you cry like me? Did you laugh at the cheese bit? I don't know. Tell me what you thought, and I will see you for the finale. Seriously, what? And then, gosh, we have one more season after this, which I know we're going to have some time in between this and season 8. We'll probably be introduced to Blood of My Blood, which I don't think we've gotten a confirmation when that will premiere yet. Most likely sometime this year. But yeah, it'll be interesting being introduced to those characters in the early years. And it'll be a nice little holdover between all the Outlander stuff, so I'm excited for that. Yes, I will see you next week for the season 7 finale. Have a great week, good year, and I'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.